My beloved child, stop for a moment. Do not scroll past this. Do not let distraction steal this second from you. This is not sluchaikakien or esteyuri. This is not coincidence. This is not just another message among thousands of voices competing for your attention. This is my last attempt to reach you, and you must not miss it. I have been calling to you in the quiet spaces. I have whispered through moments you almost ignored. I have nudged your heart when you thought it was only your imagination. Again and again, I have drawn near, not with thunder, not with fear, but with gentle persistence. And now, here you are. Not by accident, not randomly. You are here because I have arranged this moment with intention. My beloved, time is tender right now. You are standing at a subtle crossroads, even if you cannot yet see the signs. One direction leads deeper into confusion, into noise, into the same cycles that have drained your strength. The other leads into clarity, into alignment, into the quiet strength I have been forming within you. And the choice before you is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet. It is internal. It begins with whether you will listen. Stay with me until the end of this message. Do not rush ahead in your thoughts. Do not assume you already know what I will say. What I am about to reveal is layered, and each layer matters. If you leave too soon, you will misunderstand the heart behind my words. If you turn away now, you may continue asking questions that I am about to answer. This is not a threat. It is an invitation wrapped in urgency. You have felt distance lately. You have wondered if I was still speaking. You have questioned whether you missed something important. My beloved child, this is me reaching for you clearly. Not to condemn you, not to shame you, but to realign you before something within you hardens in the wrong direction. I am not desperate, but I am deliberate. I am not angry, but I am serious. Because I love you too deeply to remain silent when your heart is drifting into weariness. Listen closely now. Breathe. Let your guard lower. This message carries weight because you matter. Your path matters. The decisions forming in your heart right now matter. You have asked for a sign. You have asked for clarity. You have asked me to speak plainly. So I am. Do not treat this as background noise. Do not let familiarity dull your attention. Lean in. Let every word settle. Because what I am about to unfold will change how you see this season, how you see yourself, and how you see me. And once you understand it, you will realize that this was never random. It was rescue. My beloved child, I am speaking to you now, not to the masses, not to the curious, not to the casual listener who wanders in and out without reflection. I am speaking to you, the one whose heart has been quietly wrestling, the one who has been strong for everyone else but uncertain within. You did not find this message by coincidence. I guided you here. Even the hesitation you felt before staying was part of the process. I know how easily you dismiss moments like this. I know how quickly you tell yourself, this is probably for someone else. But it is not for someone else. It is for you. I do not cast wide nets hoping someone might feel something. I am intentional. I am precise. When I reach with purpose. And today, I am reaching for you. You have been feeling unseen. Not necessarily unloved but unnoticed. As if your quiet endurance has blended into the background of your own life. You have carried responsibilities without applause. You have swallowed words to keep peace. You have made sacrifices no one celebrated. And somewhere along the way, a subtle thought began forming. Maybe I do not matter as much as I hoped. Let me correct that gently. You matter deeply. You are not background. You are not an afterthought. You are not a forgotten name on a long list of humanity. I know the details of your struggle. I know the nights when your thoughts would not slow down. I know the moments when you stared ahead, unsure whether you were making the right choices. This is not random encouragement. This is personal intervention. I am your father. Not distant. Not distracted. Not measuring you against the progress of others. I see you fully, and I see you individually. When I say this is my last attempt to reach you in this way, I do not mean I will disappear. I mean this is a defining moment. Your heart is at a crossroads where it can either soften into trust or harden into independence driven by disappointment. You are not in trouble. Release that fear immediately. I am not confronting you with anger. I am guiding you with love. There are thoughts you have entertained recently, decisions you are considering because you are tired of waiting, tired of hoping, tired of not seeing movement. I understand the temptation to take control simply to feel relief. But I am stepping in before weariness shapes your future. You are not overlooked. You are being refined. You are not delayed because you are forgotten. You are paused because something within you is still being strengthened. My beloved child, if something inside you is stirring as you hear this, if you feel that quiet recognition that this message is not generic, then do not brush it aside. If these words are bringing peace to your spirit, bless this message with a light so it can rise above the noise and reach another heart that feels alone. Share this message with 3 souls who are quietly carrying burdens they never speak about. And if you desire to keep walking in this space of reassurance and clarity, subscribe and remain close. Help this message travel further so more of my children can feel seen. In doing so, you are not promoting a video. You are participating in reaching hearts. But hear me clearly, your engagement is not about obligation. It is about alignment. It is about saying, I receive this. I am narrowing this conversation because you need focus right now. Your thoughts have been scattered. Your emotions have been stretched thin. I am drawing a circle around you in this moment so you can breathe without comparison, without performance, without pretending. This applies to you. The questions you have been carrying, the silent reconsiderations, the quiet pull toward giving up on something you once believed in. I see it all. And I am reaching now because your next step matters more than you realize. Stay with me. Let your guard lower. Let your defenses rest. I am not here to expose you. I am here to steady you. You are not random. You are not unseen. You are not beyond guidance. You are being reached, personally, deliberately, lovingly, right now. My beloved child, I see how tired you are. Not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. Not the kind that disappears after a quiet weekend. I see the deeper exhaustion. The one that settles in your thoughts. The one that makes even simple decisions feel heavier than they should. You have been carrying questions, responsibilities, expectations, and disappointments all at once. And you have done it quietly. You smile when needed. You show up when required. You respond when called upon. But inside, there has been a quiet draining. A subtle ache you rarely explain to anyone because you do not even know how to put it into words. You have felt spiritually confused at times. Not faithless, just unsure. You have prayed, and then wondered if your prayers were rising into silence. You have waited for clarity that did not come when you expected it. You have asked for signs, and then questioned whether you missed them. And in the quiet spaces of your heart, you have whispered, "Are you still there?" I heard that whisper. You have shed tears that no one witnessed. Moments in your room. Moments in your car. Moments where you held yourself together just long enough to make it through the day, only to release the pressure when you were alone. You told yourself you were being dramatic. You told yourself others have it worse. But pain does not measure itself against comparison. What you felt was real. There were nights when you replayed conversations in your mind. Days when you questioned your own worth because something did not work out. Opportunities that slipped through your fingers. Relationships that shifted without explanation. Doors that closed without warning. And each time, you told yourself to stay strong. But strength without reassurance can begin to feel like isolation. You have also felt frustration with delay. You believed you were ready. You thought you had grown enough, learned enough, endured enough. And when nothing changed, when the breakthrough did not arrive, you began to quietly wonder if you had misunderstood me. My beloved, you have not misunderstood me. You have simply been walking through a stretch of silence that felt longer than you expected. And silence can be heavy. It can make you feel unseen. It can make you feel overlooked. It can make you question whether your efforts even matter. You have watched others move forward. You have seen announcements, celebrations, visible progress in the lives around you. And though you tried to remain joyful for them, something inside you asked, "When will it be my turn?" I am not offended by that question. I am not disappointed that you asked it. I understand the tension between faith and frustration. I understand how hope can begin to feel fragile when it stretches too long without visible reinforcement. You have tried to stay grateful. You have tried to remain positive. But there were moments when discouragement brushed against your heart and lingered longer than you wanted. Moments when you felt spiritually distant, not because you rejected me, but because you felt unsure how to hear me anymore. Listen carefully now. You were never unseen. Even when you felt overlooked, I was attentive. Even when you thought your prayers were small and repetitive, I was listening. Even when you questioned whether your tears mattered, I counted them. You are not weak for feeling weary. You are not faithless for feeling confused. You are not failing because you felt frustrated. You are human. And you are loved. I allowed you to feel the weight of this season, not to crush you, but to reveal what was quietly forming inside you. But before I explain that, I needed you to know something first. Your exhaustion did not disqualify you. Your questions did not offend me. Your hidden tears did not go unnoticed. You have been walking through more than you gave yourself credit for. And I have been walking through it with you, even in the silence. My beloved child, you now know that this was never my last attempt to reach you, and it is not my last attempt to reach others through you. The comfort I pour into you is oil meant to flow, not to be stored. There are weary souls scrolling in silence, whispering the same question you once asked. Are you still there? When you choose to give through super thanks, membership, or the PayPal link in the description, you become the vessel that carries my answer to them. As I have said, give, and it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. I speak that over you now. Your generosity becomes seed in fertile soil, and I alone multiply what is sown. This is not about money. It is about manna reaching those starving for hope. If your heart has been stirred, that stirring is my invitation. Do not ignore it. So, into this mission now, and watch me breathe life back into places that once felt silent. Act now. My beloved child, I have listened to the conversations you have had inside your own mind, the questions that echoed in silence, the thoughts you dismissed before they fully formed because you were afraid of what they might reveal. You asked, Why is nothing moving? You asked, why does it seem like everyone else is advancing while I remain in the same place? You asked, did I misunderstand what you promised me? These were not rebellious questions. They were weary questions. They rose from a heart that has been trying to remain faithful while feeling uncertain. You have watched others step into new seasons. You have seen doors open for them that look similar to the ones that closed for you. You congratulated them. You smiled. You told yourself that comparison is unhealthy. Yet later, alone with your thoughts, you felt that quiet sting. You wondered if you were falling behind. You replayed decisions in your mind. You revisited conversations. You examined missed opportunities. You asked yourself if you should have spoken sooner, tried harder, taken more risks, or perhaps stayed still longer. You questioned your discernment. You questioned your readiness. At times you even questioned me. Not loudly, not angrily, but sincerely. Are you guiding me, or am I just guessing? Are you protecting me, or am I being passed over? Why does obedience sometimes feel like loss? My beloved, these questions did not distance you from me. They revealed your desire to understand, and understanding matters to me. You felt tension building inside you, the tension between continuing to trust and protecting your heart from more disappointment. Hope felt risky. Expectation felt dangerous. It seemed easier to lower your standards quietly than to keep believing and risk feeling let down again. So you considered shrinking your dreams. You considered settling for what was available rather than waiting for what felt aligned. You thought about choosing what is immediate instead of what is meaningful, simply because you are tired of uncertainty. I saw that shift beginning. You also wrestled with timing. You believed you were ready. You thought the lessons had been learned, the growth completed. And when the breakthrough did not arrive, you wondered if I had changed my mind. You asked, why now? You asked, why not before? You asked, why not me? You saw people with less experience stepping into opportunities you desired. You saw relationships forming for others while yours seemed to dissolve. You saw progress happening around you while your own path felt paused. And slowly, you began interpreting delay as rejection. But delay is not rejection. You measured your journey by visible expansion. You assumed forward movement must look like gain, increase, recognition, or advancement. But sometimes progress looks like pruning. Sometimes positioning feels like subtraction. Sometimes protection appears as a closed door. When that door shut, you thought it meant you were not enough. When that opportunity disappeared, you assumed you were overlooked. When that relationship shifted, you wondered if you had failed. Yet what you could not see was the full picture. If I had explained everything too early, you would have moved based on information rather than transformation. If I had revealed every reason behind every delay, you might have adjusted behavior outwardly while your heart remained unchanged inwardly. There were patterns within you that needed refining. There were fears that needed exposure. There were insecurities that needed strengthening, and that work required time. You mistook my silence for distance. You mistook my restraint for indifference. But silence can hold intention. Silence can protect growth that is not yet ready for exposure. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified. You have been in a process that required deeper development than you realized. The tension you feel between faith and frustration is not evidence of failure. It is evidence that you care deeply about your future, and caring deeply makes waiting harder. But my beloved child, you were never wandering alone in confusion. You were walking through preparation without full visibility. And now, I am about to show you what this season has truly been about. My beloved child, breathe with me for a moment. Sow your thoughts. Let your shoulders lower. You have carried questions for so long that you have grown used to the tension of not knowing. But I am not a father who delights in leaving his child confused. I am deliberate, yes. I am patient, yes. But I am also kind. And kindness includes clarity when the heart is ready to receive it. Clarity is coming. Not the kind that explodes into your life with noise and spectacle. Not the kind that overwhelms you with sudden change. The clarity I bring is steady. It settles into you. It rearranges how you see your past before it even alters your future. You have been asking for answers about this season. You wanted me to explain why momentum slowed, why doors closed, why the excitement you once felt turned into waiting. You asked me to show you what you were doing wrong. You searched for hidden mistakes. You examined yourself repeatedly, wondering if you missed a signal. But the truth is layered. If I had given you a simple explanation too soon, you would have reduced this entire season to a single event. You would have labeled it and moved on. Yet what has been happening inside you is deeper than a quick answer could hold. There was a perspective you did not have access to. From where you were standing, everything looked delayed. It looked stalled. It looked like effort without visible reward. But from where I stand, I saw strengthening taking place. I saw patience deepening. I saw emotional reactions softening. I saw resilience forming quietly under pressure. You thought the goal was arrival. I knew the goal was alignment. You measured progress by movement. I measured it by maturity. You counted opportunities gained. I counted insecurities losing their grip. You see the difference. Before this season, you were eager, passionate, ready to step forward. But there were still areas within you that would have been shaken by the weight of what you were asking for. There were still fears that would have surfaced under pressure. There were still patterns that would have followed you into your next chapter. And I love you too much to allow you to step into something that would expose fractures you were not prepared to handle. This is not punishment. This is protection woven with preparation. I needed you to experience waiting without becoming bitter. I needed you to feel silence without assuming abandonment. I needed you to wrestle with uncertainty without surrendering your identity. Not because I wanted to test you into failure, but because I wanted you to see your own growth. You have changed. Even in frustration, you are less reactive. Even in delay, you are more thoughtful. Even in silence, you are more grounded than you were before. These shifts are not dramatic, but they are real, and they matter. If I had explained everything at the beginning, you might have performed patience instead of developing it. You might have acted composed while still being internally unstable. You might have held on to appearances instead of surrendering control. But now, something is steadier in you. You are slower to chase what looks appealing. You are more cautious about what feels urgent. You are beginning to value peace over impulse. That did not happen by accident. It happened because this season pressed you into reflection. Clarity is coming because you are ready to hear it without rushing to act prematurely. There is a central truth beneath all of this. One simple anchor that will hold every unanswered question in place. I have not withheld it to confuse you. I have allowed it to ripen so that when you receive it, you will not misuse it. So stay with me. Let your heart remain open. Do not jump ahead searching for conclusions. The explanation you have been longing for is about to be named plainly. And when you hear it, you will understand that nothing in this season was wasted. My beloved child, listen carefully now, because I am going to name this season with clarity and simplicity so that you no longer misunderstand it. You have been in a season of refinement, not rejection, not abandonment, not punishment. Refinement. Refinement is a deliberate process. It is controlled. It is measured. It is purposeful. When something is refined, it is not discarded. It is developed. It is not weakened. It is strengthened at its core. What is unnecessary is removed so what is essential can become unshakable. You thought this season was about delay. You felt stalled. You measured your life by visible movement, and when you did not see progress the way you expected, you assumed something was wrong. But I was not measuring your life by speed. I was measuring it by stability. You were asking for expansion. Expansion requires capacity. Capacity requires reinforcement. Reinforcement requires pressure. And pressure, my beloved, requires time. There were areas within you that still reacted from insecurity. There were subtle fears that surfaced when things did not go your way. There were expectations attached to outcomes that you did not fully recognize until they were threatened. None of this made you unworthy. It simply revealed where growth was still unfolding. If I had elevated you too quickly, the weight of what you desired would have exposed those fragile areas. Visibility would have intensified comparison. Responsibility would have magnified self-doubt. Success would not have healed insecurity. It would have revealed it. So I slowed the pace. Not to frustrate you, not to deny you, but to fortify you. Refinement often feels like restriction. It feels like being held in place while others appear to move ahead. It feels like watching doors open for someone else while yours remain closed. But what you interpreted as confinement was actually containment. A focused environment where your character could deepen without distraction. This season had boundaries. It was never meant to define your entire life. It was a contained interval of strengthening. A workshop, not a punishment. A preparation ground, not a permanent residence. In this refinement, certain things were removed. Some relationships faded. Some opportunities dissolved. Some paths that once seemed promising quietly disappeared. You believe you were losing something valuable. But some of what was removed would have complicated your future. Some attachments would have required compromise. Some doors would have led to environments that drained you more than they developed you. I was not subtracting from you to diminish you. I was subtracting to protect the version of you that is emerging. Refinement also exposed your responses. When you felt overlooked, how did you react? When you felt delayed, what thoughts did you entertain? When silence stretched longer than you expected, did you turn bitter, or did you wrestle honestly? These moments were not tests designed for you to fail. They were mirrors revealing what still needed strengthening. And you did not respond perfectly. That was never the expectation. But you stayed. Even when you were confused, you stayed. Even when you were tired, you did not completely walk away. Even when doubt whispered, you did not fully surrender your hope. The persistence, even if it felt fragile, was evidence of growth. You are more stable now than you were before this season began. You are slower to react impulsively. You are more reflective before making decisions. You are beginning to value peace over urgency. These changes may feel small to you, but they are significant to me. Refinement is quiet work. It does not draw applause. It does not announce milestones. It happens in private choices, in restraint instead of retaliation, in patience instead of panic, in integrity instead of compromise. And you have been making those choices more than you realize. You thought you were barely surviving, but you were strengthening. You thought you were stuck, but you were stabilizing. You thought you were being overlooked, but you were being reinforced. This was intentional. You have not been sidelined. You have been shaped. You have not been denied. You have been developed. You have not been forgotten. You have been formed. And refinement has a purpose, to prepare you to carry what is coming without losing yourself in the process. Now, before you move forward, I must gently remove the false conclusions you have attached to this season. Because if you continue believing it was punishment or rejection, you will misunderstand everything that unfolds next. And I will not allow you to carry a lie into your new chapter. My beloved child, now I must gently untangle the false stories you have attached to this season. Because refinement, when misunderstood, can begin to look like rejection. And I will not allow you to carry that misunderstanding any further. This was not punishment. You did not disappoint me. You did not fail some hidden test. You did not make one quiet mistake that caused me to pull back my hand. I am not reacting to you in frustration. I am not withholding out of irritation. That narrative was formed in your weariness, not in truth. This was not rejection. Closed doors are not always signs of exclusion. Sometimes they are signs of redirection. Sometimes they are protection from environments that would have slowly reshaped you into someone you were never meant to become. You saw the door close and assumed it meant you were not chosen. But a closed door does not mean you were unwanted. It can mean the timing was misaligned. It can mean the path would have cost you more than you were prepared to give. This was not abandonment. Silence does not mean absence. My quietness was not distance. My restraint was not indifference. You felt the stillness and interpreted it as space between us. But I was closer than you realized, watching carefully, guiding subtly, strengthening quietly. You thought, if he cared, he would move faster. But care is not measured by speed. You thought, if I mattered, this would be easier. But ease is not proof of love. You thought, if I were truly aligned, doors would open effortlessly. But alignment often requires pruning before promotion. You built conclusions out of partial understanding. And I do not condemn you for that. When vision is limited, assumptions fill the gaps. But now I am removing those assumptions gently, one by one. You were not being punished. You were not being sidelined. You were not being ignored. The silence you experienced was not withdrawal. It was intentional stillness so that your internal voice could grow clearer. If I had flooded you with constant reassurance, you might have become dependent on immediate answers rather than developing discernment. The closed doors were not insults. They were filters. They were boundaries protecting your peace. There were conversations you were not meant to enter. There were environments that would have drained your stability. There were commitments that would have entangled you in pressure you were not designed to carry. You saw loss. I saw protection. You saw delay. I saw development. You saw absence. I saw proximity without noise. My beloved child, fear-based interpretations distort reality. When you feel tired, your mind searches for explanations. And the easiest explanation is often the harshest one. Maybe I am not enough. But that thought did not come from me. I do not measure you against others. I do not compare your timeline to someone else's progress. I am not operating from scarcity where only a few can advance. Your path is not competing with anyone else's. You feared that you were drifting away from me. But the truth is, you were growing in ways that required less visible reassurance. A child needs constant affirmation. A maturing heart can remain steady even when affirmation is quiet. And that is what was happening. You were not being abandoned. You were being trusted with deeper stability. The refinement you experienced was not evidence of distance. It was evidence that I was investing in your foundation. And foundations are built beneath the surface. They are not celebrated publicly. They are strengthened quietly so that what rises above them can stand firm. Do not ever interpret my patience as indifference again. Do not interpret my timing as rejection. Do not interpret my silence as absence. I have been present in every restrained reaction, every disappointed breath, every moment you chose integrity when compromise seemed easier. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not unloved. Now that the false narratives are being cleared, your heart can rest without suspicion. And only from that place of rest can you fully understand the weight of what your obedience has meant. Because there were moments you did not realize were significant. And I was watching them all. My beloved child, I want you to see this season the way I have seen it. Not through the lens of disappointment, but through the lens of development. Because there were moments, many moments, that you considered small, forgettable, even insignificant. Yet those very moments carried weight that will echo into your future. I saw the restraint you practiced when frustration surged inside you, when someone misunderstood you, when your efforts were overlooked, when you felt the urge to defend yourself with sharp words or to prove your worth through force. You paused. You swallowed reactions that would have escalated conflict. You chose composure over impulse. That was not weakness. That was strength under construction. I saw the times you forgave quietly, not because the wound was small, but because you refused to let bitterness anchor itself in your spirit. You did not receive the apology you hoped for. You did not get the acknowledgement you deserved. Yet you released resentment anyway. That release was not passive. It was powerful. It created space in your heart that anger would have occupied. I saw the nights when quitting felt reasonable, when discouragement whispered that your effort was pointless, when it seemed easier to withdraw your investment, to protect yourself from further disappointment. And still, you showed up the next day. You honored your responsibilities. You fulfilled commitments without fanfare. That quiet consistency built endurance within you. There were subtle invitations to compromise, opportunities that promised faster progress if you were willing to bend your standards slightly. No one would have blamed you. No one would have noticed the shift. But you felt that internal hesitation, that gentle warning, and you respected it. You chose integrity over speed. That choice strengthened your foundation. I saw when comparison tried to take root in your thoughts, when you scrolled through the visible success of others and felt that familiar sting. For a moment, insecurity whispered that you were behind. But instead of surrendering to it, you corrected your perspective. You reminded yourself that your path is not a race. That moment of mental discipline was refinement. I saw when pride wanted to dominate a conversation, yet you chose humility. When you listened longer than you spoke. When you apologized first, even though your ego resisted. When you admitted you were wrong without crafting an excuse. These decisions may have seemed ordinary to you, but they were shaping your character in profound ways. You thought you were merely surviving this season. But survival with integrity becomes stability. Endurance with honesty becomes maturity. You were building muscles you did not know you would need. Every time you chose patience over panic, you strengthened your emotional control. Every time you guarded your speech, you increased your discernment. Every time you honored boundaries, even when loneliness tempted you to lower them, you reinforced your self-respect. Refinement does not usually look dramatic. It looks like daily faithfulness. It looks like choosing the right response when no one is watching. It looks like maintaining integrity when shortcuts are available. And you did that more often than you give yourself credit for. I was not observing you with criticism. I was witnessing you with pride. Not pride that inflates, but pride that affirms growth. I saw your effort to remain steady even when clarity was limited. I saw your desire to respond well even when emotions were high. I saw your determination not to let disappointment reshape your identity. Nothing you endured was wasted. Nothing you resisted disappeared into emptiness. Every small decision accumulated. Every restrained reaction reinforced your capacity. Every unseen act of obedience strengthened your inner structure. What felt invisible to you was visible to me. You are not the same person you were when this season began. You are steadier now, more reflective, less reactive, more aware of your own patterns, more intentional in your choices. These are not minor shifts. They are evidence that refinement has been working, and what you build quietly in hidden moments will support you openly in the days ahead. My beloved child, let me take you even deeper now, because what you considered small in this season was not small at all. You measured your growth by visible change. You looked for milestones, for breakthroughs, for tangible signs that something was shifting. And when those signs did not appear quickly, you assumed that little was happening. But I was measuring something entirely different. I was measuring the quiet accumulation of strength inside you. Every restrained word carrying weight. Every time you paused before reacting, you were training your spirit to lead your emotions rather than be ruled by them. The discipline may have felt minor in the moment, but repeated over time, it reshaped your inner stability. You are calmer now than you were before. Not because life is easier, but because you have learned to steady yourself. Every act of forgiveness expanded your capacity for peace. When you released resentment without a grammatic apology. When you chose not to rehearse the offense in your mind. When you refused to let bitterness define your posture. Those were not just emotional decisions. They were structural reinforcements. Bitterness weakens foundations. Forgiveness strengthens them. Every moment you waited instead of forcing created endurance. You were tempted to push doors open. You were tempted to create your own momentum out of frustration. But when you chose to pause instead of panic, you were strengthening your trust. Waiting without clarity is not passive. It is active restraint. It builds muscles that comfort never can. Nothing was wasted. The days that felt unproductive were not empty. They were conditioning you for sustainability. The nights that felt lonely were not meaningless. They were teaching you how to remain whole without constant affirmation. The silence that felt heavy was not abandonment. It was the space where your internal stability was being fortified. You believed significance required visibility. But significance often grows in hidden places. When roots grow deeper, they do not make noise. When foundations are reinforced, there is no applause. But those unseen developments determine how much weight you can carry later. You were learning emotional maturity, not through theory, but through practice. You were learning to manage disappointment without letting it distort your identity. You were learning to handle delay without collapsing into self-doubt. You were learning to observe your own thoughts and correct them before they spiraled. It is profound growth. You are less reactive now, more reflective, less desperate for validation, more grounded in quiet confidence. These changes did not arrive overnight. They formed through repetition, through choosing integrity when compromise was easier. Through choosing steadiness when anxiety whispered louder. Small decisions accumulate into strong character. Strong character sustains greater responsibility. And greater responsibility requires depth. My beloved child, if these words are bringing peace to your spirit, if you are beginning to see that your hidden endurance was not invisible, then bless this message with a like so it can rise above the noise and reach another heart who believes their quiet faithfulness does not matter. Share this message with 3 souls who need to know that nothing in their waiting has been wasted. And if you desire to continue walking in this steady understanding, subscribe and remain connected. Help this message travel further so more hearts can recognize the significance of their unseen obedience. Understand this clearly. Your small, consistent choices were shaping your future capacity. They were not isolated events. They were forming a pattern of maturity, a pattern of steadiness, a pattern of strength. You were not merely surviving a season. You were becoming someone who can carry more without collapsing. You were not simply enduring silence. You were developing trust that does not depend on constant explanation. You were not overlooked. You were being prepared in hidden ways that will support you openly. Nothing was random. Nothing was unnoticed. Nothing was wasted. And now, as you begin to see the hidden significance of your obedience, you are ready to understand how deeply this season has changed you from the inside out. My beloved child, pause with me and look at who you are now. Not who you wish you were, not who you think you should be, but who you have quietly become through this season. When this stretch of refinement began, you were eager for movement. You equated progress with speed. You believed that if something was meant for you, it would unfold quickly and clearly. When that did not happen, restlessness grew inside you. You felt tension when answers did not arrive. You felt unsettled when outcomes were delayed. But something has shifted. Patience has been formed in you, not shallow patience that forces a smile while resentment builds underneath. Not fragile patience that disappears at the first sign of inconvenience. I am speaking of deeper patience, the kind that breathes steadily, the kind that does not demand constant updates to remain calm. You are learning how to exist in uncertainty without trying to control it. That was not natural for you before. Delay strengthened muscles you did not know you needed. When progress slowed, you could not hide behind activity. You were left alone with your thoughts. And in that quiet, you began to notice patterns. You began to observe your reactions. You saw how quickly fear could rewrite your narrative if you were not attentive. Now, you are more self-aware. You catch yourself sooner when comparison tries to rise. You recognize the difference between intuition and insecurity. You pause before making decisions that once would have been driven by emotion. That pause is maturity. That awareness is growth. Humility has also taken root. Not humiliation, not shrinking, but humility that understands you are still developing. You no longer assume that desire equals readiness. You have learned that wanting something deeply does not automatically mean you are prepared to sustain it. You have grown more reflective, more teachable, more willing to admit when you need adjustment. That humility will protect you in seasons of visibility. Trust has deepened in you as well. Before, trust was easier when results were quick. When prayers were answered clearly, confidence felt natural. But this season invited you into a quieter kind of trust. Trust without constant reassurance. Trust that does not collapse when explanations are delayed. You have learned to remain steady even when clarity unfolds slowly. Your emotional stability has increased. Situations that once would have overwhelmed you now meet a steadier version of yourself. You still feel deeply. You still care intensely. But you do not spiral as quickly. You are learning to regulate your emotions instead of being ruled by them. You breathe before reacting. You reflect before speaking. Is his strength forming? You have also become more compassionate. Waiting softened you. It made you less judgmental of struggles you do not fully understand. You recognize now that growth is rarely linear. You see complexity where you once saw simplicity. Refinement did not harden you. It matured you. You thought you were merely surviving this season. But survival with integrity becomes endurance. Endurance becomes resilience. Resilience becomes stability. Character is not built in moments of arrival. It is built in the stretch between promise and fulfillment. It is formed when no one is watching. It is strengthened when there is no applause. And you have been forming character. You are not who you were when this season began. You are steadier. You are slower to panic. You are more reflective in your decisions. You are less dependent on external validation. You are more grounded in who you are, even when circumstances feel uncertain. These changes may not feel dramatic, but they are durable. And durability is what sustains what comes next. My beloved child, refinement has done its quiet work. You have changed you. And that change is the evidence that this season was never wasted. My beloved child, refinement has done its quiet work in you, and now your maturity can become provision for others. The patience I formed in you is oil for another's lamp. The steadiness I built in you is shelter for someone still trembling. When you support this mission through super thanks, membership, or by giving through the PayPal link in the description, you are not funding a channel. You are fueling a harvest. Did I not say that those who sow in tears will reap in joy? The growth you experienced in hidden places is seed ready to be scattered. Your gift becomes light piercing someone else's midnight. I see the hearts ready to awaken, and I am inviting you to help me reach them. This is a divine partnership, a holy exchange between heaven's provision and earthly obedience. As you release, I release. Do not delay this prompting. Strengthen what strengthened you. Give now. My beloved child, let us return to the silence, because I know it lingered in your heart longer than any single disappointment. You can endure hardship when you understand its reason. You can survive pressure when you see its purpose. But silence, when it stretches longer than expected, can begin to feel like distance. It can feel like I stepped back. It can feel like your prayers rose into emptiness and fell back unheard. You asked me for clarity. You asked me for direction. You asked me for confirmation that you were not walking alone. And when immediate answers did not arrive, a quiet ache formed inside you. You did not stop believing in me, but you questioned whether I was responding. You wondered if I had chosen not to intervene. You feared that perhaps you had missed something, done something, failed in some unseen way. Listen carefully now. My silence was never punishment. It was never withdrawal. It was never indifference. If I had answered every question at the moment you asked it, you would have adjusted your behavior quickly. You would have aligned externally without deepening internally. You might have followed instructions well, but you would not have strengthened your discernment. There is a difference between knowing what to do and becoming someone who understands why. If I had explained every closed door, you would have stopped knocking, but you might not have learned patience. If I had revealed every future step, you would have moved strategically, but you might not have matured emotionally. Immediate clarity often produces compliance. Sustained silence produces character. You were not being ignored. You were being developed. Silence creates space. And in that space, hidden things surface. In the quiet, you discovered how much reassurance you depended on. You noticed how deeply you longed for visible confirmation. You confronted fears that only appeared when answers were delayed. That confrontation was necessary, because if I had filled every gap with quick explanation, those fears would have remained buried. And buried fears do not disappear. They grow quietly until pressure exposes them later. Silence allowed exposure before elevation. You mistook my quietness for distance, but I was not stepping away from you. I was allowing your internal stability to step forward. A child needs constant direction, but maturity develops when guidance becomes quieter and discernment becomes sharper. You are not meant to live dependent on constant audible instruction. You are meant to grow into steady confidence. There were prayers you prayed and felt nothing afterward. There were nights you searched for a sign and found only stillness. That stillness was not absence. It was trust. Trust that you were capable of choosing integrity even without immediate reassurance. You were learning to walk steadily without holding on to visible guarantees. And that lesson will guard you later. If I had revealed everything too early, you might have rushed ahead of your readiness. You might have forced timing because you believed you understood the outcome. But timing is not only about opportunity, it is about alignment. And alignment requires preparation. Silence protected you from premature movement. It also protected you from unnecessary pressure. Knowledge carries weight. If you had known certain details too soon, you might have felt overwhelmed by expectation. You might have tried to measure yourself against an outcome that required deeper formation. I will never burden you with what your foundation cannot yet carry. So I allowed the quiet, not to test your loyalty, not to measure your endurance, but to cultivate depth. And depth is forming. You are less fragile now when answers are delayed. You are less shaken by temporary uncertainty. You are more grounded in who you are, even when you do not see what is ahead. That stability was born in silence. My beloved child, my quietness was purposeful. It was protective. It was patient. It was shaping you into someone who does not collapse when clarity unfolds slowly. You endured the silence without completely walking away. And that endurance is evidence that you are ready for what follows. My beloved child, come closer in your heart for this moment, because I need you to truly receive what I am about to say. You endured more than you have allowed yourself to acknowledge. You have a habit of minimizing your own growth. You look at what you went through and say, it was not that serious. You compare your struggle to someone else's and convince yourself that your pain was small. You brush past your own resilience as if it were expected, as if anyone would have handled it the same way. But not everyone would have. You carried disappointment without allowing it to poison your spirit. You felt overlooked, yet you did not surrender to bitterness. You experienced delay after delay, yet you did not completely abandon hope. Even when your faith felt thinner than usual, it did not disappear. That matters more than you know. There were moments when quitting would have been understandable. Moments when lowering your standards would have made life easier. Moments when choosing comfort over character would have cost you less emotionally. And yet, even in your weariness, you chose integrity more often than impulse. You stayed. You wrestled internally, yes. You questioned, yes. You had nights when doubt felt louder than confidence. But you did not let doubt define your final decision. You did not let frustration rewrite your identity. Even when you pulled back to protect your heart, you did not seal it shut. That quiet thread of connection you maintained, even when it felt fragile, was strength. You have made invisible sacrifices, decisions that no one applauded, restraint that no one noticed, years that no one saw fall. There were days you showed up for others while feeling uncertain yourself. Conversations where you offered encouragement while privately wondering when your own encouragement would come. I saw every one of those moments, and I am not disappointed in you for struggling. Remove that thought from your mind. You are not weak because you felt tired. You are not unstable because you wrestled with doubt. Doubt is not disqualification. It is a sign that you care deeply, and caring deeply requires courage. You were never required to navigate this season flawlessly. You were invited to remain open, and you did. You remained open enough to reflect on your reactions instead of defending them blindly. Open enough to admit when fear was speaking. Open enough to adjust your posture when you sensed misalignment. That openness allowed refinement to complete its work. The emotional cost was real. There were mornings when motivation felt thin. Evenings when your thoughts circled without resolution. Quiet stretches where you felt suspended between what was and what can be. You carried uncertainty with more grace than you realize. You think endurance is ordinary, but endurance in silence is rare. Many walk away when answers slow down. Many harden when expectations are unmet. Many detach completely to protect themselves from disappointment. You did not harden completely. You did not detach entirely. Even in your confusion, there was still a part of you that wanted alignment more than escape. That part of you is precious. My beloved child, hear this clearly. You did not fail this season. You did not waste this season. You did not misunderstand this season. You endured it, and endurance has reshaped you. You are more emotionally aware than before, more reflective in your decisions, more measured in your reactions, more capable of sitting with complexity without collapsing into extremes. That is growth. You may not feel dramatically transformed. You may not sense fireworks or sudden elevation, but transformation often feels like quiet resilience. It feels like strength that does not need to announce itself. This is your validation moment. Let shame fall away. Let the narrative of inadequacy dissolve. Let the idea that you should have handled it better release its grip. You handled it as someone who was growing, not as someone who was finished. And growth under pressure is honorable. You have come further than you realize. And because you endured this season without surrendering your integrity, you are now ready for a clear declaration about where you stand. The waiting did not weaken you. It refined you. And what is built on refined strength does not crumble easily. My beloved child, feel the shift in this moment. For so long, you have been standing inside the process, inside the questions, inside the stretching, inside the uncertainty. You have been trying to understand it while you were still living it. But now, you are no longer in the middle of it. You are at the edge of it. The atmosphere changes here. This is not a moment of hype. It is not a moment of dramatic escalation. It is a moment of recognition. A moment where what has been forming quietly is acknowledged clearly. You have walked through refinement. You have endured silence. You have faced yourself honestly. You have wrestled with doubt without letting it define you. You have felt the tension between wanting to move forward and being required to stay still. And you stayed. You did not stay perfectly. You did not stay without questions. But you stayed with your heart open enough for growth to take place. That is what matters. I need you to slow down your thoughts right now. Do not rush ahead of me. Do not anticipate what you think I am about to say. Just listen. This season had boundaries. It was not infinite. It was not undefined. It was not punishment disguised as preparation. It was measured. It was intentional. It was purposeful. And it has reached the point it was designed to reach. The pressure revealed your stability. The delay revealed your endurance. The silence revealed your depth. You feared that the process might expose your weakness. You wondered if you would collapse emotionally. You questioned whether your faith was strong enough to survive uncertainty. There were moments you felt fragile, moments you felt stretched thin. But look at you. You are still here, still listening, still open, still seeking alignment. That alone tells you something powerful. If this season had broken you, you would have hardened. If it had defeated you, you would have detached. If it had disqualified you, you would have drifted into indifference. But you did not. You grew quieter, not colder. You became more reflective, not more reckless. You became more grounded, not more bitter. That is evidence of maturity. The waiting does not shake you the way it once did. The silence does not terrify you the way it once did. The delay does not destabilize your identity the way it once did. Those reactions have softened because something inside you has strengthened. This is not emotional exaggeration. This is spiritual assessment. You have crossed an internal threshold. Before, uncertainty controlled you more easily. Before, unanswered questions created deeper anxiety. Before, delay felt like a verdict against you. Now you are steadier. You are more capable of breathing through ambiguity. You are less reactive when outcomes are unclear. That change did not happen by accident. It happened because refinement completed its work in you. And because it has completed its work, we are no longer discussing possibility. We are no longer analyzing preparation. We are no longer wondering if you are ready. We are marking transition. You do not need to strive harder to prove yourself. You do not need to panic to accelerate timing. You do not need to question whether you endured enough. You have. The evidence is in your steadiness. The evidence is in your restraint. The evidence is in your continued openness. This is the turning point. The uncertainty that once defined this chapter no longer has the same authority over you. It has served its purpose. It has revealed what needed revealing. It has strengthened what needed strengthening. And now, the narrative shifts. Not because your emotions demand it. Not because circumstances suddenly change overnight. But because internally, you are no longer the same person who entered this season. Preparation has reached its conclusion for this chapter. Stand steady now, my beloved child. The verdict is about to be spoken clearly. My beloved child, now I speak without metaphor, without build-up, without suspense. This is the verdict. You have not failed. Let those words settle deeply into you. Do not rush to soften them. Do not argue with them in your mind. Do not immediately bring up your mistakes as counter-evidence. I am not speaking carelessly. I am speaking with full awareness of your thoughts, your doubts, your private moments, your internal battles. And still, I say it clearly, you have not failed. This season was never designed to expose your weakness so I could withdraw from you. It was never structured as a narrow examination you were destined to barely pass. It was refinement, intentional, measured, purposeful refinement. And refinement has accomplished what it was meant to accomplish in you. You feared the delay meant disqualification. It did not. You feared the silence meant disappointment. It did not. You feared the stretching meant you were not ready. It did not. You interpreted discomfort as rejection. You interpreted stillness as distance. You interpreted unanswered questions as evidence that something was wrong with you. but those interpretations were born from weariness, not from truth. Here is the truth. You walk through pressure without surrendering your integrity. You walk through uncertainty without abandoning your values. You walk through silence without permanently hardening your heart. Not perfectly, not without emotion, not without wrestling, but faithfully. Faithfulness is not the absence of struggle. It is the decision to remain aligned even while struggling. And you remained. Before this season, uncertainty unsettled you more quickly. Delay felt personal. Silence felt threatening. You required visible reassurance to remain calm. Now, something in you is steadier. You are slower to panic, slower to assume the worst, slower to interpret pause as punishment. That change is not imaginary. It is evidence. You are not behind. Remove that narrative entirely. You are not late. You are not overlooked. You are not waiting because you are unworthy. You were being strengthened because what lies ahead requires the stability you now carry. The verdict is not about dramatic external change. I am not declaring that every door will swing open tomorrow. I am declaring something deeper. You have become someone who can be trusted with more. Trusted not because you are flawless, but because you are self-aware. Trusted not because you never doubt, but because you examine your doubt instead of letting it rule you. Trusted not because you are fearless, but because fear no longer dictates your final decision. You have learned restraint. You have learned reflection. You have learned patience that breathes instead of panics. You have learned humility that listens instead of defends. You have learned trust that stands even when explanations are incomplete. That is readiness. The instability that once shaped your reactions has weakened. The insecurity that once dominated your thoughts has lost authority. The urgency that once pressured you into premature action has softened. You are steadier, and steadiness sustains elevation. My beloved child, there is no accusation against you in this chapter. There is no hidden disappointment behind my words. There is no withheld approval waiting for you to perform better. There is affirmation. You endured. You adjusted. You matured. You grew in ways that cannot be reversed. This is the verdict, simple and firm. You have not failed. You have been formed. And formation always comes before forward movement. My beloved child, I want you to examine the evidence within you carefully, not with harsh judgment, but with honest recognition. You have been so focused on what has not changed around you that you have overlooked what has clearly changed within you. Yet the transformation inside you is the strongest proof that refinement has completed its work. Think about how you respond now compared to how you once did. There was a time when uncertainty would have gripped your thoughts tightly. You would replay conversations over and over, searching for reassurance that never fully satisfied you. You would imagine outcomes before they unfolded and feel the weight of them, as if they were already real. Your mind would race ahead, constructing worst-case scenarios and treating them as truth. Now you still reflect, but you do not spiral as deeply. When anxiety begins to rise, you recognize it sooner. You pause. You breathe. You question whether the thought is grounded in truth or fear. That pause is not small. That pause is maturity in motion. There was a time when delay would have unsettled you more severely. Waiting felt like a verdict. Silence felt personal. You would have interpreted a closed door as a statement about your worth. And now, when timing stretches longer than expected, you are more measured. You may still feel impatience, but you are not consumed by it. You can sit in the unknown without immediately collapsing into doubt. That is growth. There was a time when criticism lingered in your mind long after it was spoken. You would dissect every word, searching for hidden meanings. You would carry other people's opinions as if they were final judgments. Now, you evaluate feedback differently. You consider what is helpful. You release what is not. You no longer allow every external voice to override your internal alignment. That is stability. There was a time when urgency would have driven your decisions. You would have felt compelled to act quickly just to relieve discomfort. You might have forced conversations, forced opportunities, forced outcomes, anything to escape the tension of waiting. Now, you are slower to move without clarity. You are more willing to ask deeper questions before committing. You value alignment more than acceleration. That is wisdom forming. You may not celebrate these changes because they unfolded gradually. Growth rarely announces itself loudly. It develops quietly, through repetition and restraint. But your emotional range has widened. You are less extreme in your reactions, less likely to interpret challenges as catastrophes. You breathe differently now. You process differently now. You speak differently now. Even in conflict, you are more composed. You listen longer. You are less driven by the need to win and more interested in understanding. Even in disappointment, you are more reflective. Instead of immediately declaring defeat, you ask what can be learned. These are structural shifts. Before this season, you desired elevation. But elevation without internal steadiness can become fragile. Responsibility without humility can distort character. Opportunity without discernment can entangle you in pressures you are not prepared to carry. You have grown in these areas. You are more aware of your patterns. You notice your triggers sooner. You correct yourself more quickly when misalignment appears. You are less dependent on constant validation. Encouragement still comforts you, but it no longer defines you. This is what passing refinement looks like. Not perfection, not the absence of struggle, but awareness, steadiness, humility, and restraint. My beloved child, the evidence is within you. You are calmer under pressure. You are wiser in your choices. You are more patient in process. You are more discerning in relationships. You are less reactive in uncertainty. These are not minor adjustments. They are foundational changes. And foundations determine how high you can build without collapsing. You have not only endured this season, you have been strengthened by it. And the strength that now lives within you will sustain what unfolds around you next. My beloved child, now listen closely, because what I am about to reveal is not loud, but it is powerful. Refinement was never meant to end with survival. It was meant to unlock something within you. And now, that unlocking has begun. This season has unlocked a new level of responsibility in you. Not responsibility that crushes, but responsibility that trusts you. Before, you needed clearer guardrails. You needed stronger boundaries around certain decisions. You required more visible confirmation before moving forward. Not because you were incapable, but because you were still developing steadiness. Now, something is different. You pause naturally. You reflect before reacting. You weigh long-term impact instead of chasing short-term relief. That is maturity. And maturity unlocks trust. You are being entrusted with deeper discernment. You can now sense misalignment faster. When something is rushed, you feel it. When something is forced, you recognize it. When something looks impressive but lacks peace, you hesitate. Not out of fear, but out of awareness. Before, urgency might have overridden that awareness. Now, you honor it. This unlocking is internal before it is external. It is not about sudden elevation. is about expanded capacity. You are now capable of carrying more without being destabilized by it. You can hold opportunity without losing humility. You can receive affirmation without depending on it. You can navigate visibility without craving it. That is authority rooted in steadiness. And steadiness is what sustains growth. You will notice that your decisions feel heavier now, not in burden, but in weight. You sense that your choices shape more than just the present moment. You are more thoughtful about consequences. You are more attentive to alignment. You care more about sustainability than speed. That is vision widening. This season has unlocked a deeper level of leadership within you. Quiet leadership. The kind that does not demand attention. The kind that steadies a room without raising its voice. The kind that influences through presence rather than performance. You are not seeking power. You are becoming stable. And stability is influence in its purest form. But hear me carefully, my beloved child. This unlocking is measured. It does not mean every desire will manifest immediately. It does not mean acceleration replaces patience overnight. It means you are now prepared to carry what comes without collapsing under it. You are less reactive, less impulsive, less dependent on constant reassurance, more grounded, more aware, more intentional. This is internal promotion, not applause, not spectacle, but trust it. If these words are strengthening your heart, if you feel the quiet confirmation that you are stepping into deeper maturity, then bless this message with a like so it can reach others who are still doubting their growth. Share this message with 3 souls who need to understand that refinement unlocks responsibility, not rejection. And if you desire to continue walking in this steady growth, subscribe and remain connected. Help this message reach more hearts that are ready to mature. My beloved child, do not rush this new level. Do not test it with impatience. Walk in it calmly. Let it unfold naturally. Trust that the strengthening inside you is real. You are not stepping into something unfamiliar. You are stepping into something you have been prepared for. And you are ready. Not because you are perfect, but because you are formed. My beloved child, come with me carefully into this part of your story, because we must speak honestly about the doors that closed. Some of them still visit your thoughts late at night. Some of them still surface when you see others walking through opportunities that resemble what you once hoped for. You may not dwell on them constantly, but they are not fully forgotten. You wondered why that relationship faded. You wondered why that opportunity dissolved. You wondered why that plan, which once felt so promising, unraveled without clear explanation. And beneath all of those questions was a quieter one. Did I lose something that was meant for me? Listen closely now. Not every closed door was a loss. Some were protection disguised as disappointment. Your relationships that felt meaningful at the surface. You saw connection. You saw shared interest. You imagined shared direction. But what you could not fully see was the subtle misalignment growing underneath. Over time, you would have had to adjust parts of yourself to preserve that connection. You would have silenced certain convictions to maintain harmony. You would have carried emotional weight that slowly drained your clarity. You saw possibility. I saw pressure forming. You saw potential. I saw compromise waiting quietly at the edge. If that door had remained open, you might have stayed out of loyalty rather than peace. You might have confused attachment with assignment. And in doing so, you would have delayed the growth that was already unfolding within you. The ending was not rejection. It was preservation. There were opportunities that looked right because they promised movement. They promised acceleration. They offered visible progress. And after a season of waiting, speed felt attractive. When those opportunities slipped away, it felt like momentum being stolen. But some of those invitations were rooted in urgency, not alignment. They would have placed you in environments that required stability you were still building. You would have faced expectations that magnified insecurities still under refinement. You might have stepped into visibility before your foundation was ready to carry it. I did not close those doors to withhold you. I closed them to protect you from premature pressure. Timing is not only about desire. It is about durability. If you step into something too early, it may look like success but feel like survival. And I will not position you in spaces where you must constantly fight to remain whole. You also replayed conversations that slowly faded. People who once felt certain grew distant. Plans that seemed structured quietly dissolved. You searched for what you might have said differently. You wondered whether a small adjustment would have kept the door open. You did not misstep. Alignment sometimes looks like redirection, and redirection can feel like rejection when you cannot yet see the larger path unfolded. Some doors closed because they were attached to a previous version of you, a version still learning steadiness, still seeking validation in external affirmation, still tempted by urgency. But you are not that version anymore. You are growing into someone who values peace over pressure, someone who values sustainability over speed, someone who values integrity over appearance. The closed doors cleared space for that growth. Release the bitterness you still carry toward those endings. Release the thought that you were overlooked. Release the narrative that you missed your only opportunity. Nothing meant for your stability will require you to shrink to sustain it. Nothing aligned with your formation will disappear permanently. You are not standing in lack because something ended. You are standing in alignment because something misaligned was removed. The doors that closed were not evidence of scarcity. They were evidence that your path is narrowing toward what truly fits who you are becoming. And what truly fits will not require you to force it open. My beloved child, the doors that closed made room for doors of impact to open. What felt like loss was clearing for legacy. Even now, there are souls standing before closed doors, believing they missed me. Through this message, I am knocking gently on their hearts, and your generosity helps that knock be heard. When you gave through super thanks, join in membership, or sow through the PayPal link in the description, you turned disappointment into deliverance for someone else. I told you that nothing meant for you will be stolen, and this opportunity to partner with me is meant for you. What you release becomes a river that flows beyond your sight. I will guard your provision as you guard my purpose. I will multiply what you place in my hands. This is not pressure. It is alignment. If you feel the nudge, it is me. Open your hand. Support the mission. Act now. My beloved child, something profound has been unfolding within you, and it is deeper than improved habits or calmer reactions. It is deeper than patience or discipline. What is shifting now is your identity, the way you see yourself when no one else is looking. For longer than you realized, you carried the quiet posture of a survivor. You were surviving disappointment, surviving silence, surviving delay, surviving being misunderstood. Even when you stood strong on the outside, internally there was a brace in your spirit, as if you were constantly preparing for impact. You expected interruption. You expected setback. You expected to have to defend your place. But you are not merely a survivor. You are becoming a steward. A survivor wakes up asking, how do I get through today? A steward wakes up asking, how do I manage what has been entrusted to me? A survivor moves from reaction. A steward moves from responsibility. A difference changes your posture, your tone. your decisions, even your peace. When you believed you were overlooked, you moved defensively. You interpreted delay as exclusion. You measured your worth by visibility. You felt the need to explain yourself, to justify your path, to prove that you were capable. That posture created subtle tension in your spirit. It made you alert to comparison and sensitive to perceived rejection. Now something is loosening. You are beginning to see yourself not as overlooked, but as entrusted. Entrusted with growth. Entrusted with maturity. Entrusted with discernment. Entrusted with responsibility over your inner world. When you see yourself as entrusted, you treat your time differently. You protect your peace. You guard your energy. You become more selective about who has access to your attention. Not because you are becoming distant, but because you are becoming aware. The quiet victim narrative that once tried to whisper to you, the idea that life was happening to you without purpose, is losing its grip. That narrative told you that you were at the mercy of timing, that you were always responding, never shaping, that you were behind. But you are not behind. You are becoming grounded. Internal authority is rising in you. Not authority over others. Authority over yourself. Authority over your reactions. Authority over your boundaries. Authority over your choices when no one is watching. This is not arrogance. This is anchored confidence. You will notice the shift in subtle ways. You feel less urgency to prove your worth. You are less inclined to over-explain your decisions. You are more comfortable letting your consistency speak for you. You do not chase validation as intensely as you once did. That is stewardship. You are moving from asking, "Why is this happening to me?" to asking, "What is being shaped within me?" You are moving from comparison to clarity, from insecurity to quiet strength, from survival to management. This does not mean you will never feel doubt again. It does not mean challenges will disappear. But your foundation has changed. You are no longer defining yourself by what did not happen. You are defining yourself by what hath been formed inside you. My beloved child, this identity shift is essential. If you step into your next chapter still believing you are overlooked, you will hesitate when opportunity comes. You will minimize your growth. You will second-guess your readiness. But if you step forward as someone entrusted, you will move with responsibility. You will parry opportunity with humility. You will protect your peace with intention. You are not stepping into superiority. You are stepping into stability. You are not becoming hardened. You are becoming rooted. And rooted hearts do not sway with every wind. You are no longer simply surviving your journey. You are stewarding it. And that changes everything about how you walk from this moment forward. My beloved child, now that you understand who you are becoming, I give you one clear instruction for this present moment. Not many instructions. Not a heavy list that burdens you. Just one steady command that will guard your next steps. Stay steady. Do not rush ahead simply because you feel ready. Do not attempt to prove your growth by accelerating your pace. Do not let excitement, fear, or urgency push you beyond alignment. What hath been formed within you needs rhythm, not pressure. There will be invitations that seem time-sensitive. Opportunities that look like they must be seized immediately. Conversations that carry the tone of act now or lose it. Emotions may rise and try to convince you that movement equals progress. But not all movement is advancement. Stay steady. The version of you from before might have reacted quickly, just to relieve the discomfort of waiting. You might have forced decisions because silence felt unbearable. You might have said yes simply to avoid feeling left behind. But that version of you has grown. You are not required to chase what is aligned. You are not required to force what is meant. You are not required to hurry what is already unfolding. When something new presents itself, pause before responding. Let peace evaluate it. Let clarity breathe. If something unsettles your spirit deeply, do not ignore that signal simply because the opportunity appears impressive. Misalignment often disguises itself as urgency. Steadiness protects discernment. When you remain calm internally, you can see more clearly. You can distinguish between stretching and straining. Stretching grows you with purpose. Straining drains you without peace. If something demands you abandon your center to maintain it, it is not aligned with your formation. Stay steady in your habits. The rhythms that strengthen you during refinement must continue. Reflection, self-awareness, guarded speech, thoughtful pacing. These are not temporary disciplines. They are anchors. If you abandon them in excitement, you risk destabilizing what has just become solid. Stay steady in your boundaries. You do not need to reintroduce chaos to demonstrate resilience. You do not need to accept every invitation to prove you are ready. You do not need to engage in every debate to show your strength. Protect your clarity. Protect your peace. Protect the quiet authority forming within you. This is not a season of striving. It is a season of stabilizing. Growth must settle before expansion can sustain itself. Roots must deepen before branches extend further. If you rush to expand without rooting, you will feel unstable again. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not missing out. You are positioned. And positioning requires patience. You are not responsible for solving every problem placed in front of you. You are not obligated to carry burdens that were never assigned to you. You are not required to say yes to maintain relevance. Discernment requires space. So create space intentionally. Space in your schedule. Space in your conversations. Space in your thoughts. Do not clutter this new level with unnecessary noise or frantic activity. Calm strength is more powerful than frantic effort. The world may move loudly, but your progress will move steadily. Quiet consistency will carry you further than impulsive bursts of energy. Walk slowly enough to remain aware. Move confidently enough to avoid fear. But above all, remain steady. Because steadiness is the soil where sustainable progress takes root, and you are now planted in that soil. My beloved child, now that you have grown steadier, now that your identity has shifted and your footing feels more grounded, I must lovingly warn you about something subtle, the quiet return of distraction. Growth does not remove distraction from your path. It refines your ability to recognize it. As you become more stable, as your discernment sharpens, there will be gentle invitations to step back into what once felt familiar. These invitations will not announce themselves as danger. They will not arrive with obvious warning signs. They will come softly. They will feel known, comfortable, almost harmless. But you must understand this. Not everything familiar is aligned with who you are now. There may be relationships that resurface, conversations that reopen, opportunities that resemble ones you once desired deeply. You may feel a subtle pull, not because they are right, but because they are recognizable. The mind often confuses familiarity with safety. Yet familiarity is not the same as peace. Comfort is not the same as confirmation. You are no longer the version of yourself who tolerated inconsistency in exchange for connection. You are no longer the person who accepted partial clarity because you feared losing momentum. You are not the same heart that once silenced intuition just to maintain belonging. You have changed. And because you have changed, old patterns will feel different, even if they attempt to disguise themselves as improved. Be aware of small compromises. Transformation rarely collapses in a dramatic moment. It erodes through subtle allowances. A boundary softened slightly. A value negotiated quietly. A hesitation ignored because the opportunity appears attractive. One small step backward may seem harmless, but repeated steps create distance from who you have become. Guard yourself gently. This is not about fear. It is about awareness. When something feels familiar, pause and ask yourself whether it also feels aligned. When something flatters you, consider whether it also respects you. When something excites you, examine whether it also steadies you. You are not being tested to fail. You are being invited to remain consistent. Consistency is what anchors growth. The world around you may still interact with you as if you are unchanged. Some people may approach you expecting the same reactions you once gave. Some environments may attempt to trigger responses that you have already outgrown. You may feel the old impulse rise for a moment, the impulse to explain excessively, to react defensively, to rush into action. But you are not required to respond as you once did. Stay steady. Respond from who you are becoming, not from who you were. You do not need to announce your growth. You do not need to defend your boundaries with intensity. Quiet consistency will speak louder than dramatic declarations ever could. This phase is about integration. Refinement shaped you. Steadiness grounded you. Now consistency must secure you. Old thought patterns may revisit. Doubt may whisper familiar arguments. Nostalgia may romanticize what once destabilized you. But nostalgia edits out the lessons you learned. Do not let memory soften the truth of what you endured. You moved forward for a reason. Do not step backward simply because backward feels known. Forward movement now will not be sustained by emotion alone. It will not be sustained by excitement. It will be sustained by small, repeated, line choices in quiet moments. Stay aware. Stay steady. Stay aligned. Because what unfolds next in your life will require not only growth, but the maintenance of that growth. And you are capable, not only of becoming stronger, but of remaining strong. My beloved child, now I speak to you about courage, but not the kind that stands on platforms or shouts into crowds. I am speaking of quiet courage, the courage that lives in daily decisions, the courage that no one applauds but that shapes the direction of your life more than any dramatic moment ever could. You have endured refinement. You have learned steadiness. You are practicing consistency. But now, you must embody what hath been formed in you. An embodiment requires courage. It takes courage to live differently than you once did. It takes courage to respond calmly when others expect your old reaction. It takes courage to hold a boundary when someone tests whether it is real. It takes courage to say no without over-explaining. There will be subtle moments ahead where your growth is quietly challenged. Not in obvious attacks, not in dramatic confrontations, but in small interactions, familiar dynamics, situations that once triggered you. You may feel the old impulse rise for a moment, the impulse to defend, to overextend, to react quickly. But you are not that version anymore, and choosing not to respond the old way will require courage. Some people will notice that you are different. They may not say it directly, but they will feel it. They will sense that you no longer participate in certain conversations, that you no longer tolerate certain patterns, that you no longer rush to fill silence with explanation. And not everyone will be comfortable with that. Some may test your steadiness to see if it is temporary. Some may interpret your calmness as distance. Some may feel unsettled because your boundaries highlight where theirs are weak. Do not shrink to make them comfortable. Do not loosen your growth to maintain familiarity. You are not responsible for preserving old dynamics that no longer align with who you are becoming. Quiet courage means standing firm without aggression. It means honoring your peace without announcing it. It means walking in alignment even when it feels unfamiliar to those around you. There may be moments when you feel slightly alone in this new posture, when others return to cycles you have outgrown and you choose not to follow. When environments that once felt natural now feel slightly misaligned because you have matured beyond them. That is not rejection. It is transition. You are not isolating yourself. You are elevating your standards. Courage will also be required in forward movement. There will be moments when clarity invites you to step into something new. A conversation you once avoided. A responsibility that feels weighty but aligned. An opportunity that requires trust in the steadiness you now carry. Do not let fear disguise itself as caution in those moments. You are not fragile. You are formed. Courage is not loud confidence. It is quiet alignment. It is choosing what you know is right even when convenience pulls in another direction. It is remaining steady when emotion tempts you to rush. You will not always feel brave. You will not always feel certain. But courage is not the absence of uncertainty. It is movement that honors clarity despite it. Refinement strengthened you. Steadiness grounded you. Consistency secured you. Now courage will move you, gently, intentionally, wisely. My beloved child, the next chapter of your life will not be built on dramatic declarations. It will be built on quiet courage expressed in daily choices, and you are capable of that courage. My beloved child, now I speak to the part of you that hesitates at the edge of movement. You have learned steadiness. You have embraced quiet courage. You are practicing consistency. But now you must learn something equally important: how to trust yourself as you move forward. For a long time, movement felt dangerous to you. You were afraid that one wrong decision would undo everything you worked to build. You feared repeating old cycles. You feared misreading signals. You feared stepping forward only to discover you misunderstood the moment. That fear kept you cautious, and caution protected you for a season. But you are no longer as fragile as you once believed yourself to be. You are formed. You are grounded. You are not walking on thin ice anymore. You are walking on foundation. There is still a whisper that occasionally rises in your thoughts. What if I choose incorrectly? What if I go backward? What if I disappoint myself? But listen carefully. Growth does not disappear because of one imperfect choice. Maturity does not evaporate because of one adjustment. The lessons you learned are not temporary. They are integrated. You cannot unknow what you now know. You cannot unlearn the awareness you have gained. You cannot return to complete ignorance of your patterns. That alone should bring you peace. Forward movement is not reckless acceleration. It is not impulsive action. It is intentional stepping. It is responding when peace confirms it. It is speaking when clarity settles. It is resting when something feels unsettled. You spent a long season learning to pause. That pause strengthened you. It sharpened your discernment and taught you to evaluate before reacting. But now you must also learn when to proceed. Remaining steady does not mean remaining stagnant. Guarding alignment does not mean avoiding opportunity. Some doors will open quietly before you. They will not arrive with spectacle. They will not shout for your attention. It will simply appear calm and aligned. When they do not hesitate solely because you fear imperfection. You are capable of navigating responsibly now. You are not the impulsive version of yourself from before. You are not the insecure version who doubted every instinct. You are not the reactive version who moved from emotion alone. You have changed. And because you have changed, your movement will reflect that change. Trust does not mean you will never feel doubt. It means doubt will no longer dictate your direction. It means you consult peace more than fear. It means you move when alignment invites you, even if comfort prefers to remain still. There will be moments when stepping forward feels unfamiliar. That unfamiliarity is not danger. It is expansion. Growth stretches you into spaces that once intimidated you. You not retreat simply because the ground feels new. You have the steadiness to stand there. You have the courage to step there. You have the consistency to remain there. The refinement you endured was not preparation for endless hesitation. It was preparation for responsible movement. The stability you developed was not meant to trap you in caution. It was meant to support you in progress. You are not beginning again from weakness. You are continuing from strength. If you misstep, you will adjust without collapsing. If you encounter challenge, you will respond with awareness instead of panic. If you need to correct course, you will do so with humility, not shame. That is maturity. My beloved child, move forward with calm confidence, not loud certainty, not forced boldness, but quiet assurance that you are anchored. The next steps will not undo you. They will reveal the steadiness that now lives within you. You are ready to move, not perfectly, but faithfully. My beloved child, now we stand in a sacred place in your journey, the place where your growth begins to extend beyond you. What has been forming inside your heart was never meant to stop at your own healing. It was meant to ripple outward through your presence. You may not think of yourself as influential. You may believe that influence belongs to those with platforms, titles, or loud voices. But that is not how influence truly works. Influence flows from consistency. It flows from integrity. It flows from the quiet way you carry yourself when no one is applauding. When you changed internally, your presence changed externally, and presence shifts atmospheres. There are people who feel calmer around you now. They may not know why. They may not say it, but they sense it. Your steadiness creates space for others to breathe. Your restraint creates room for others to reflect. Your clarity invites others to reconsider their own reactions. You do not need a microphone to lead. You do not need recognition to matter. You do not need numbers to measure your impact. When you choose not to react impulsively, someone notices. When you refuse to engage in gossip, someone observes. When you hold a boundary without cruelty, someone learns that strength does not require aggression. This is quiet leadership. Leadership is not about control. It is about example. There will be moments when someone watches how you respond to disappointment. They may be facing their own hidden battles. They may be waiting to see whether stability is possible. And when they see you remain composed instead of collapsing, it plants a seed in them. There will be moments when someone studies how you handle misunderstanding. When you choose patience over defensiveness, it gives them permission to do the same. You are becoming a reference point. Not because you are flawless, not because you never struggle, but because you are consistent. Consistency builds trust, and trust gives weight to your presence. My beloved child, your growth is not isolated. Someone is gathering courage because you stayed steady. Someone is reconsidering a reactive choice because they witnessed your restraint. Someone is believing that maturity is attainable because they see it embodied in you. You may never hear their testimony. You may never receive acknowledgement. But impact does not require applause. It requires alignment. If these words are resonating deeply within you, if you are beginning to understand that your quiet transformation carries influence beyond your awareness, then bless this message with a like so it can reach another heart that doubts their significance. Share this message with 3 souls who need to know that their growth is not invisible. And if you desire to continue receiving this steady encouragement, subscribe and remain connected. Help this message travel further so more hearts can recognize the power of quiet leadership. My beloved child, this is not pressure to perform. It is not a call to perfection. It is an invitation to remain aligned. Because when you drift, others may follow. And when you remain steady, others find permission to steady themselves. Walk gently. Speak thoughtfully. Respond intentionally. Not because you are being judged, but because you are being trusted. You are no longer simply surviving your story. You are shaping the environment around you through who you have become. And that influence will ripple farther than you can see, touching lives in ways you may never fully measure. Remain steady. Remain humble. Remain aligned. Your quiet growth is louder than you think. My beloved child, now I want to speak to you about something that stretches beyond this moment, beyond this week, beyond this season. I want to speak to you about legacy. Not the distant end of your life, not a dramatic future event, but the legacy you are quietly building right now in ordinary days. You may think legacy is reserved for great accomplishments, for public victories, for milestones that gather attention. But legacy is not built in spotlight moments. It is built in private decisions. It is written in the way you respond when no one is watching. It is shaped by how you treat people when there is nothing to gain. Right now, you are writing your legacy. Every time you choose peace instead of reaction, you write it. Every time you protect your integrity instead of compromising for convenience, you write it. Every time you hold your boundary without cruelty, you write it. Every time you admit a mistake with humility instead of defensiveness, you write it. You once believed your life would be defined by visible success. But understand this clearly, my beloved child. Your life will be defined far more by the quality of your character than by the size of your achievements. Achievements fade. Recognition shifts. Applause quiets. But character endures. And character becomes the foundation of legacy. You are building a legacy of steadiness. A legacy of thoughtful response. A legacy of quiet strength wrapped in humility. The way you carry yourself in tension is shaping how others will remember you. The way you handle disappointment is forming the tone of your influence. The way you respond to misunderstanding is deepening the weight of your presence. You are not simply passing through days. You are imprinting them. There are younger hearts watching how you manage pressure. There are peers observing how you handle success without arrogance. There are elders noticing how you speak with respect even when you disagree. They may not voice it, but they are forming conclusions about maturity through your example. That is legacy in motion. Do not allow this understanding to become pressure. Legacy is not perfection. It is consistency. You will still make mistakes. You will still grow. But when you correct yourself with humility instead of pride, that correction becomes part of your legacy too. Imagine years from now when someone describes you. They will not remember how quickly you move. They will not recount every opportunity you chased. They will remember how you made them feel. They will remember that you were steady in chaos, that you were thoughtful in conflict, that you carried peace in rooms filled with tension. That is the imprint that lasts. And you are shaping that imprint now in small, unseen choices. Do not underestimate quiet days. Do not dismiss ordinary moments. Do not believe that faithfulness without applause is insignificant. Legacy is built in hidden obedience long before it is recognized publicly. Walk in a way that your future self will respect. Speak in a way that your conscience can rest at night. Choose in a way that protects the integrity you have cultivated. My beloved child, your life is not random motion. It is intentional formation. And the legacy emerging through you will not be loud for the sake of attention. It will be lasting because it is rooted in character. Remain steady. Remain humble. Remain aligned. What you are building now will echo longer than you realize. My beloved child, legacy is not only in how you live, it is in what you choose to sustain. Right now, your decision can echo into lives you may never meet. Every super thanks, every membership, every gift sent through the PayPal link in the description becomes a brick in a spiritual altar that carries my word across nations. You are writing legacy with your generosity. As I have spoken, the generous soul will be made rich, and the one who waters will be watered also. I am watching how you respond in this moment. Your seed becomes light in dark rooms, oil in empty lamps, bread for those hungry for reassurance that I am still speaking. Do not underestimate the eternal weight of a simple act of obedience. This is how influence is extended beyond your own voice. If you desire your life to echo with lasting impact, then sow into what spreads my presence. Establish your legacy. Give now. My beloved child, now I bring you to one of the most delicate and powerful steps in your journey, the release of control. You have grown in discernment. You have strengthened your boundaries. You have practiced steadiness. You have embraced quiet courage. But there is still a subtle tension you sometimes carry, the tension of trying to secure outcomes before they unfold. For a long time, control felt like protection. If you could predict what would happen, you believed you could prepare your heart. If you could manage every detail, you believed you could prevent disappointment. If you could rehearse every possible scenario, you believed you could avoid pain. But control is not the same as peace, and it is not the same as trust. Control tightens your posture. Trust softens it. Control rehearses. Trust rests. Control grasps. Trust opens its hands. You have done the work required of you in this season. You have examined your patterns. You have adjusted your reactions. You have chosen alignment repeatedly, even when it cost you comfort. Now you are being invited into something deeper, not more effort, but more surrender. This surrender is not weakness. It is strength that no longer needs to grip. You are not responsible for engineering your destiny. You are responsible for guarding your character. You are not assigned the task of guaranteeing success. You are assigned the task of walking in integrity. You are not meant to force doors open or keep them closed through sheer anxiety. You are meant to remain aligned. There will be moments ahead when you cannot see the entire path. You will only see the next step, and your mind may attempt to race ahead, calculating every possible outcome. It may whisper that if you do not secure certainty now, you will regret it later. But my beloved child, certainty is not always given in advance. Sometimes it is revealed in motion. When you attempt to control outcomes, you carry a weight that exhausts you. Your thoughts loop repeatedly. Your body tightens. Your peace becomes conditional. You wait for guarantees before you breathe fully. But when you release what you cannot govern, something shifts inside you. Your breath deepens. Your thoughts sow. Your posture relaxes. You realize that you can act wisely without holding everything together alone. Let go of the need to prevent every mistake. Let go of the belief that one imperfect decision will undo your growth. Let go of the timeline you silently constructed, the expectation that certain blessings must arrive by certain dates. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are unfolded, and unfolding cannot be rushed without damage. My beloved child, surrender is not passive resignation. It is active trust. It is choosing to move with integrity while releasing the pressure to secure every result. It is stepping forward when peace confirms it, even if full clarity has not yet arrived. You are guided. You are supported. You are not navigating this life alone. Continue to practice discernment. Continue to act with courage. Continue to remain steady. But release the burden of controlling what was never assigned to you. The next chapter will not require your frantic management. It will require your open hands. It will require your willingness to trust that what is aligned will remain, and what is misaligned will fall away without you forcing it. Rest your grid. Open your hands. Let trust replace tension. You are ready, not only to grow, not only to lead, but to surrender without fear. And in that surrender, you will find a peace deeper than control ever gave you. My beloved child, now that your hands are opening, now that you are loosening your grip on control, I want to speak to you about rest. Not physical rest alone, though your body needs that too. I am speaking about the rest of your spirit. The rest that comes when you stop bracing for impact. The rest that settles in when you no longer feel responsible for holding every outcome together. For a long time, even as you grew, there was a quiet tension within you. A subtle readiness for something to go wrong. A preparedness for disappointment. You learned to survive by anticipating disruption, and that survival skill once protected you. But you are not in survival anymore. You are in stewardship, and stewardship allows rest. Rest does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying what was never yours to hold. It means you allow your shoulders to lower. It means you allow your breath to deepen. It means you trust that alignment will sustain you more than anxiety ever could. My beloved child, you have earned this rest, not as a reward for perfection, but as the natural result of growth. When your character is anchored, you do not need to monitor every detail. When your discernment is sharpened, you do not need to rehearse every possibility. When your integrity is intact, you do not need to prove yourself constantly. Rest is confidence without noise. There will still be responsibilities. There will still be decisions. There will still be moments that require your courage. But you can approach them from calmness now instead of urgency. You can move from stability instead of fear. Let your mind quiet more often. Let your body relax more intentionally. Let silence become a friend instead of a threat. You do not need constant stimulation to feel secure. You do not need constant updates to feel stable. You do not need constant reassurance to feel worthy. You are anchored. My beloved child, there is a rhythm emerging in your life now. A rhythm of steadiness. A rhythm of thoughtful response. A rhythm of trust instead of tension. Protect that rhythm. Do not allow unnecessary chaos to disrupt it. When conversations grow frantic, remain calm. When others rush, move with intention. When pressure rises, breathe deeply. Rest does not remove responsibility. It changes how you carry it. You are no longer carrying fear. You are carrying formation. You are no longer bracing for collapse. You are building from foundation. And foundation allows you to rest even while you build. My beloved child, this rest is not temporary. It is a new posture, a new way of walking, a new way of responding. You do not have to earn it again and again. It flows from who you have become, So exhale. Release tension from your shoulders. Release the need to anticipate every outcome. Let trust settle into your bones. You are not behind. You are not in danger of losing what is aligned. You are not one misstep away from collapse. You are steady, and steady hearts are allowed to rest. Carry this rest with you into the next chapter. Let it shape your tone. Let it shape your decisions. Let it shape your presence. Because the strongest people are not the ones who never pause. They are the ones who know when they can finally breathe. My beloved child, come closer in your heart for this moment, because what I am about to restore within you is something you quietly set aside, joy. Not the loud joy that depends on perfect outcomes. Not the fragile excitement that rises quickly and fades when circumstances shift. I am speaking of deep, quiet joy, the kind that rests beneath the surface, the kind that does not panic when timing changes, the kind that does not disappear when life feels unfinished. For a long time, you treated joy as something conditional. You allowed it only when things felt secure, when doors opened, when conversations went well, when plans unfolded as expected. But when uncertainty appeared, you tightened. You softened your excitement. You told yourself not to celebrate too soon. You were protecting your heart. But in protecting it, you restricted it. You believed that guarding yourself meant limiting how high you allowed yourself to feel. If you did not rise too much, you thought you would not fall too far. So you rationed your joy. You delayed your gratitude. You waited for guarantees before allowing yourself to fully smile. My beloved child, you are no longer bracing for collapse. You are anchored. And anchored hearts are free to feel joy without fearing its disappearance. Joy is not naive optimism. It is not denial of reality. It is grounded contentment. It is the steady awareness that even while growth continues, you are secure enough to breathe deeply. It is the quiet recognition of how far you have come. It is the internal warmth that rises when you notice your own steadiness. You are allowed to feel joy before everything resolves. You are allowed to appreciate small victories without waiting for monumental breakthroughs. You are allowed to laugh freely without rehearsing what could go wrong. You are allowed to celebrate progress even while you are still becoming. There will be simple moments ahead. A calm conversation, a peaceful afternoon, a decision that aligns gently. Do not rush past them. Do not dismiss them as temporary. Receive them fully. Let your heart register that goodness is present now. Gratitude will strengthen this joy. When you intentionally notice what is stable, what is healthy, what is aligned, joy becomes less fragile. It becomes rooted. It becomes a posture instead of a reaction. My beloved child, joy will also soften your strength. Without joy, maturity can become rigid. Responsibility can feel heavy. Discipline can become exhausting. But joy brings balance. It keeps your heart open. It keeps your presence warm. It reminds you that growth is not only about endurance. It is about freedom. You do not need to earn joy through achievement. You do not need to secure every future outcome before permitting yourself to feel lightness. You are safe enough to experience goodness right now. There will still be challenges. There will still be lessons. But joy can coexist with unfinished chapters. It can live alongside responsibility. It can breathe even when circumstances are imperfect. You are no longer surviving. You are living. And living includes delight. Let joy rise without apology. Let gratitude anchor it. Let trust sustain it. Let rest protect it. Because the strongest hearts are not those that remain guarded at all times, They are the ones who know they are secure enough to rejoice, even while the story continues. My beloved child, allow yourself to feel the gentle happiness of stability, the quiet pleasure of alignment, the calm satisfaction of growth. This joy is not temporary. It is rooted in who you are becoming, and you are finally steady enough to hold it. My beloved child, come closer in your spirit, because now I must gently stretch something within you that has been guarded for a long time, your expectation. For years you trained yourself not to expect too much. You lowered your hopes so that disappointment would not wound you as deeply. You softened your anticipation so that reversal would not feel like devastation. You told yourself it was wisdom to imagine less, to hope carefully, to stay emotionally prepared for things to fall apart. You were surviving, but you are not surviving anymore. You are becoming, and becoming requires a different posture than survival. There is something ahead of you, not something you must chase in anxiety, not something you must force into existence, but something prepared in alignment with the growth that has taken place within you. Yet to receive it fully, you must allow expectation to breathe again. Guarded expectation once felt safe, but when you expect disappointment as your default, your body braces, your thoughts scan for problems, your heart hesitates to open. Even when good begins to unfold, you hold part of yourself back. My beloved child, you are no longer that fragile version of yourself. You are anchored. You are formed. You are steady. Hope rooted in insecurity demands immediate proof. It clings to outcomes and panics when details shift. But hope rooted in trust is different. It does not demand control. It does not rush timing. It simply believes that goodness can meet you without being immediately stolen away. You are allowed to expect alignment. You are allowed to anticipate healthy connection. You are allowed to imagine conversations where you are understood. You are allowed to believe that opportunities can match your maturity. This is not fantasy. This is readiness. The past taught you caution, but it also refined you. It strengthened your discernment. It matured your responses. It deepened your steadiness. The same past that once hurt you also prepared you. Do not let it convince you that disappointment is your destiny. That it ain't have you but you. If you expect chaos, your shoulders tighten. If you expect misalignment, you withdraw prematurely. If you expect collapse, you hesitate even when stability is present. But when you expect alignment, you stand open. Not reckless, not naive, but receptive. There will be moments ahead when something feels different. A relationship will feel steady instead of uncertain. An opportunity will require your maturity instead of your scrambling. A conversation will leave you feeling respected rather than diminished. And in those moments, you will quietly realize, this is new. It is new because you are new. You are not required to brace against every blessing. You are not required to dampen your joy to remain safe. You are not required to rehearse loss before you have even experienced gain. Lift your eyes gently, not in frantic searching, not in impatient striving, but in calm expectation. You are not waiting in emptiness. You are waiting in positioning. And positioning always precedes encounter. You do not need to manufacture what is coming. You do not need to manipulate circumstances. Remain steady. Remain aligned. Remain open. What belongs in your life will not require you to abandon yourself to secure it. My beloved child, anticipation is not pressure. It is preparedness. It is the quiet confidence that growth has positioned you for something healthy. Allow hope to stretch without fear snapping it back. Allow expectation to rise without immediately silencing it, because what is ahead will not undo your steadiness. It will confirm it. You are not at the edge of disappointment. You are at the edge of fulfillment shaped by maturity. And you are ready, not desperate, not rushed but open. My beloved child, breathe slowly with me in this moment, because what I am about to untangle has been sitting quietly in your heart. When you first heard the words, "my last attempt to reach you," don't miss it. Something inside you tightened. It sounded urgent. It sounded final. It felt like a narrow doorway closing, as if everything depended on whether you responded perfectly this time. But listen to me now without fear. This was never about a final chance. I do not operate from desperation. I do not reach for you as though you are slipping beyond my grasp. I am not limited to one attempt. You once believed that life was fragile in a terrifying way, that if you misread a moment, you would forfeit your future, that if you hesitated too long, destiny would pass you by. You carried a quiet pressure that everything depended on your flawless timing. You feared that one wrong step could undo years of becoming. My beloved child, your life is not balanced on a thin thread. You are not one mistake away from being abandoned. You are not one delayed response away from being forgotten. You are not one imperfect season away from losing what is meant for you. The urgency you felt was not about losing me. It was about awakening within yourself. There were seasons when you felt far from clarity, far from peace, far from confidence. In those seasons, you interpreted silence as absence. You interpreted waiting as rejection. You interpreted refinement as punishment. You thought perhaps you had missed something essential, that perhaps I had moved on while you were still trying to catch up. But I never moved away. I was present in your quiet tears. I was present in your internal battles. I was present when you chose restraint over reaction. I was present when you felt alone, but refused to give up on integrity. You mistook the stretching for separation. You mistook the silence for distance. But silence was shaping you. Stretching was strengthening you. Delay was deepening you. This was never my last attempt to reach you. It was the moment you finally became steady enough to listen without panic. For years, when you heard correction, you felt shame. When you sensed redirection, you felt fear. When you experienced delay, you felt rejection. Your heart was tender and defensive at the same time. You heard urgency and assumed disqualification. But now, something is different. You are not listening from anxiety anymore. You are not responding from insecurity. You are not bracing for abandonment. You are steady enough to hear love without assuming loss. This message was never about racing against a closing door. It was about you recognizing that the door was never locked. I have been patient with your process, patient with your confusion, patient with your hesitation, patient with your growth. You were not running out of chances. You were growing into readiness. Everything that felt like distance was preparation. Everything that felt like silence was strengthening. Everything that felt like delay was alignment forming beneath the surface. Nothing was wasted. Not your pain. Not your questions. Not your waiting. Not your missteps. They all shaped you into someone who can now stand without trembling. My beloved child, I am not reaching for you as though I might lose you. I am walking with you as you awaken. This is not an ending. It is recognition. Recognition that I have always been near. Recognition that you were never forgotten. Recognition that you were never beyond my voice. You were simply becoming quiet enough to hear it without fear. And now, you can hear me clearly, not as a warning of loss, but as a reassurance of love. This was never my last attempt. It is your moment of realization. You were never out of reach. You were always being formed. And now, you finally know it. My beloved child, this is not an ending. It is a sealing. Not a closing of conversation, but a settling of truth inside your heart. You began this journey feeling urgency. You heard the words and felt the pressure. You wondered if this was your final opportunity to respond correctly, your last moment to realign, your final chance to be reached. But look at you now. You are no longer trembling at the sound of urgency. You are no longer bracing for rejection. You are no longer afraid that one imperfect step will undo everything. You are steady. You are open. You are aware. And that awareness is the true turning point. My beloved child, this entire journey was never about pressure. It was about preparation. It was never about fear of loss. It was about awakening to love. It was never about chasing you down. It was about walking with you until you were calm enough to recognize my voice without panic. You have grown. Not in noise. Not in spectacle. But in depth. You respond differently now. You breathe differently now. You carry yourself differently now. The fear that once whispered, "Don't miss it or you will lose everything," has been replaced with a deeper truth. Nothing aligned with your becoming can be stolen from you. You are not one decision away from abandonment. You are not one delay away from disqualification. You are not one mistake away from losing your place. You are held. You are guided. You are known. And you are loved, not because you perfected your response, but because you opened your heart. My beloved child, as you step forward from this moment, carry what you have learned. Carry steadiness instead of urgency. Carry trust instead of control. Carry joy instead of guardedness. Carry expectation instead of fear. Carry rest instead of tension. Do not return to survival. You are not there anymore. Do not shrink back into small thinking. You have expanded. Do not silence hope to feel safe. You are secure enough to hope. This is not my last attempt to reach you. This is your reminder that I have always been here. When you rise tomorrow, I am with you. When you face uncertainty, I am steady. When you celebrate joy, I rejoice with you. When you falter, I remain. You do not have to strive to be reached. You are already known. You do not have to fear missing me. I am not hiding from you. You do not have to rush into destiny. You are walking in it, step by steady step. My beloved child, rest in this truth. You were never out of reach. You were never forgotten. You were never too late. You were being formed. And now you are ready, not for pressure, not for panic, but for peace. Walk forward with calm confidence. Speak with gentle strength. Love with open hands. Trust without gripping. Because this is not an ending. It is the beginning of living without fear that you will miss what was always meant for you. And I will continue walking with you, not as a last attempt, but as a constant presence. Always. My beloved child, this was never my last attempt to reach you, and through you, it will not be my last attempt to reach the world. You are no longer living in fear of missing me. Now you are positioned to help others hear me. When you support this mission through super thanks, membership, or by giving through the PayPal link in the description, you become part of the river that carries my voice into dry places. I declare over you now, as you sow into this work, I will guard what concerns you. I will breathe increase over what you release. Your offering is not small in my sight. It is fire on the altar, oil in the lamp, seed in the field awaiting harvest. If this message steadied you, imagine what it will do for thousands more. This is your moment of divine participation. Do not scroll past the invitation. Do not silence the prompting. Stand with this mission. To boldly and act now.